Today, we would like to thank our very gracious hosts, the city here, for allowing us to use this space, not only where we get to sit, but the technology that allows us to stream in all of you who are joining us online. So thank you, thank you. So good to see so many of your faces and have this time together. So to kick us off, I would just like to, again, we thanked our hosts, and we'd also like to thank our host, United Way, for sponsoring this event and helping us to make it possible, and for the Emerging Leaders team. There's been some really wonderful things that have happened because of a group of people coming together to invest their time in the work of United Way and investing in the community, and it's a joy to be a part of that. Just a few highlights for some fun things that have happened through United Way. Oh. Maybe that's our virtual attendees. Hi, guys. Just some great things that have happened through Emerging Leaders in the past year that I'd love to share with you. Over 300 children's books were donated through the Emerging Leaders Book Drive. Over 50 participants in the Emerging Leaders Family Fun Run that we hosted on August 7th at Nourish. 300 volunteer hours provided by the Emerging Leaders Steering Committee on the 21 Day of Caring, and then over $11,000 donated in just the past year. So that's a really wonderful thing, and you all get to be a part of that celebration and continuing work by being here today. So with that, I would like to jump right in to our panel. Very excited to have these wonderful guests with us today. Not only for the role that they play in the community, but for their heart for the individuals that we get to all serve every day. So it's a joy to have you three. Welcome, welcome. We're going to start with just some basic introductions. If you wouldn't mind sharing your name, the company that you represent, and then how long you've been in Sheboygan County. And then I'm going to throw a little bonus in there. It's a beautiful day. You've got all the time you need. Where would we find you in Sheboygan County? So we'll start with Louie.
My name is Louie Gentine. I'm a third-generation CEO at Sargento Foods. The company was founded by my grandfather back in 1953. Happy to be here with all of you present and also those virtually. Sheboygan County at this time of the year, you would really, if I wasn't here and I wasn't at work, I'd be sitting in a tree stand. So I'd be bow hunting.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Janine?
Hi, I'm Janine Chesebro. I'm a senior project leader at Kohler Company, where I've been for about 4.5 years now. I've lived in Sheboygan 12 years. I married a Sheboyganer, so here I am. Let's see, if I weren't here today, I'd probably be with my kids at a soccer game or hiking or playing outside somewhere.
Love that. Favorite spot to hike?
Ooh, we love Maywood.
Okay. Oh, nothing better, especially this time of year. Matt?
Good afternoon. My name is Matt O'Connor, and I'm the Vice President of Supply Chain at Rockline Industries. I've been with Rockline for 18 years. I've been in Sheboygan County for 8 of those years. And where would I be? I would either be in the Kettles, taking a hike, or maybe in a duck blind boat in the Sheboygan Marsh.
Oh, there we go. Wonderful. My name is Johanna Wenig, and I serve as the director of the foundation at HSHS St. Nicholas Hospital. And I've been here in Sheboygan for about 5 years. And yeah, hiking, gone along bike ride, run, so many beautiful spots to see, again, especially this time of year. So wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you for the investment of time and y'all being here today. We have one big goal for today in this panel, which is to share meaningful philanthropic work that has happened in Sheboygan County with a special focus on sustainable partnership. And the reason why we have asked each of these individuals to join us today is they individually, as well as the organizations that they represent, have invested in incredibly meaningful ways for generations, and specifically in some really special ways in the past 2 years. And so we're kind of going to time capsule that and look and celebrate at some of the really wonderful things that have happened and use that as inspiration stepping forward. So I'm going to launch a couple questions that emerging leaders have prepared, and then we will have time for Q&A at the end. So please tag those and be ready to ask. So I'm going to start, we're going to go back in the timeline. And Louie, I'm going to start with you. I'm just curious, from your perspective and your role as CEO of a massive organization, where did your mind go when you first heard about COVID-19? Did you have any inkling on not just the community impact, but the worldwide impact on your employees, the community as a whole? Like, where did your mind go when you first heard?
I think as many people, when you first started hearing about COVID-19, it was one of kind of disbelief. You just really didn't know what to believe. Is this real? Is this really going to impact us here in the United States, or is this just something that's happening outside of the United States? And obviously, very quickly, we realized that we were, as a country and as a business, going to be faced with a very, very hard challenge. And the immediate thing was to try and figure out how we could continue to keep our employees safe. This was real, and as a food company, we were continuing to package food and cheese for consumers, being part of the food supply. Being an essential workplace with essential workers, we immediately kind of put a crisis team together, which is not a crisis team that you would think that you would have to put together. But that team, that group of people from HR, health professionals, and ultimately other representatives, even from other companies in the area, immediately started to kind of work on strategies of how we could, first and foremost, is keep our employees safe. Mm-hmm. The impact of COVID, I still kind of look back to those early months and when you saw businesses completely shut down, mm-hmm. restaurants completely shut down. It was really sad because you could see the impact that this was having, and this was at no fault of their own. This was just something that was just thrown onto them, and so that was really hard, but was also kind of refreshing and kind of made you feel good about living in Sheboygan County. Is this community rallied in such a huge way? Companies, individuals, helping businesses that were in a bad spot, kind of help get them through this. Everybody started, restaurant industry, everybody started to do takeout. I mean, the number of takeout orders that my wife and my family did during that time, far and exceeded how often we go out to dinner. But it was the right thing to do. Because we wanted to do our part of helping people through that. So I think, COVID is a challenge. It still is a challenge, quite frankly. I think this area, these companies, our community, I think has done a really good job kind of managing through it. And I think, from you as emerging leaders, kind of learning and hearing about Sheboygan County, you should be very proud to be in this community because it is a very, very giving community.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Louie, when we started to, just like you're talking about, this impact and how it started to, when things shut down and different members of our community were impacted, from my vantage point, there were so many systems when it came to our social services that had a very strong place to be able to serve our community, specifically in the area of food security. Mm-hmm. And Sargento has been a huge part of that. Can you share a little bit about the work that Sargento did way before 2020 ever came to work with the food bank and in general that concept within Sheboygan County?
Yeah, so food has been one of our kind of major areas of giving back to our community, and we've had a long-term partnership with the Hunger Task Force down in Milwaukee. And, so in understanding that organization and how they work, down in the southeast Wisconsin, but then also how they help distribute food really throughout the entire state through the Wisconsin Food Network. It dawned on me and a few other business leaders in this area that, we didn't really have an efficient system on how to distribute food and get food to people that were kind of food insecure. We have a number of different pantries kind of located throughout the county, but very few really took the idea of how do you address the food insecurity problem. And that's something that, I had seen work very well with the Hunger Task Force is make sure you provide food to those people that need it. But then how do you start to address that root cause of why they're in the position that they're in? Patrick at the Sheboygan County Food Bank has just done a wonderful job of kind of bringing the food pantry network together to figure out ways to distribute food efficiently, utilize our resources in our community more effectively, and then ultimately be able to continue giving those people who are food insecure that opportunity to receive, a basic need of food. Through COVID, it was really kind of remarkable, and I think having the food bank as it is today around to handle the dramatic increase in the requirements to address the problem. The U.S., the government's food box program, Patrick and his team at the food bank helped orchestrate and kind of put that all together and make sure that we could distribute that out. I don't know what we would have done. I mean, you look back at it and I know we would have figured it out. But, having that group, I think really helped us be able to, again, kind of do what we needed to do to get resources and basic necessities to people.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was incredible to see the investment that was made before we ever knew that this crisis was going to come.
Yeah.
To really, just like you're saying, the engine was built and it was working really well. And when that added weight came, it was really incredible. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Joanna, can I just add one other thing? We had some thought leaders within this community that stepped forward very early. And I look at what the United Way staff had done. March 16th, they started the fund. Think about the timing. I mean, that was only 2 weeks into this craziness. They put together a fund because they saw the need, and they're a good thought leadership type of community thinkers, and they raised over $285,000 in just a very short period of time and got that money into the community very quickly. And so, I just keep applauding that, and that effort was very instrumental.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Actually, Matt, if we can continue on that
Sure.
same line of
Yeah,
thought,
go.
you actually had a key role in being able to distribute some of those funds, being on the distribution team.
Right.
Can you tell us about your experience both before being on that committee and then during COVID, how you saw those funds move?
Yeah, great question. I've been part of that distribution group for a couple of years, even prior to COVID. And that experience has been immeasurable for me personally to really understand the needs of the community and to kind of open your eyes a little bit to what's really going on, because you're not exposed to it all. There's a lot of programs that people are very well aware of, the food banks and, the Red Cross and Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, doing really amazing things in this community. There are two programs, though, that kind of speak to me that are less known, and I thought just give it a minute or two to share with the emerging leaders and those that are watching virtually about them. And the first one that really speaks to me is through the Family Resource Center. And the Family Resource Center has a program called Parents as Teachers. And the notion of that program is to work with parents on a monthly basis, going into the home and teaching them how to teach their child, how to put them on a developmental curve so that when they enter kindergarten, they're where they need to be. And there are parents that just don't know how to do that. And sadly, those that don't create a cycle of people that are, of children that are not prepared and then struggle at school. And when you struggle in first grade, typically struggle in sixth and in 12th, and then there's issues. So if you can break the cycle, if you can teach these children how to, stack blocks or know your numbers or whatever. And so this program that we distribute money to, a sizable amount of money to pay for the people to go into the homes to do this is just an amazing program. And it speaks to me. And as emerging leaders, there's gonna be a program or two that will speak to you too. And that will kind of warm your heart and tell you, hey, I need to get involved. I need to help. The second one that is less known that I just want to make you aware of that speaks to me is at the Lakeshore Regional Child Advocacy Center. This program provides forensic interviews for children that have been abused. And what's amazing about this program is, sadly, a child is abused, right? Gosh, terrible. But what this program does is it coordinates with the legal system, the police system, the doctor system, so that the child has to be interviewed once and go through that trauma, unfortunately, a second time. But it's all recorded, done by trained people that know how to ask the questions, that know what's going to happen in the coming months in the court systems and so forth to prosecute this, and not put that child through it again and again and again. And so, amazing program, and another one of those that we need to fund in order to help those children to only experience that trauma, sadly, once or maybe, and explain it another time. So two really great programs. So as the distribution team, you get to know the details. You immerse yourselves into the details of these programs. And you find those that are really effective, are that result in great outcomes, and that's where you want to put your money. People don't want to they want to put their money, their hard-earned money on programs that are effective, and the distribution team does that work, studies them empirically, understands how they're effective, what works and what doesn't work, and then utilizes that money to fund those programs. And so that's what the distribution team does, and it's a privilege to have participated on that, and I encourage any of you to engage it. It is decided by the volunteers. This is not a staff decision process. This is a volunteer decision, and what's best for the community.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Thank you for that time that you've invested in going through the data and the organizations and being a true champion of not just making sure those funds get there, but that those funds are used in a really powerful way. So I know all four of us could speak on the point of the power that it is when you are able to get involved in the community at such a ground level. It's really a front row seat to some of the best things that happen that I know. For me, if I just stay in my office and do all of my to-do list items, I miss out on some of the inspiration and the true heartwarming change that is happening. So, yeah, that's your plug for getting involved. And if you're looking for ways, I'm sure anyone with the United Way logo can point you in the right direction. So personally, we understand the value of being involved and having this attitude of philanthropy and really building into our community. I'm going to start this question with you, Matt, but I'd be curious, Janine and Louie, if you'd like to add as well. The idea of how to merge this personal passion with the work that you do every day in your organizations. I know Rockline is known for some of the fun events that are hosted that support United Way. Louie, when I was at the Day of Caring, I feel like every other person was from Sargento that I was saying hello to, and they just showed up on that day. And Kohler is always the Hearts for the Hungry. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But how do you make this personal passion, something that's actually part of your organization in a meaningful way, more than just the corporate social responsibility, the CSR. How do we actually make it a part of things that we love as a business?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time at work, right? All of us do. And at Rockline, we want to have a little fun while we're working hard, right? And sprinkle that in. And so we do have fun little events that allows us to relax for a minute, but also the real basis behind it is to educate them, to educate the associates about what is happening in the community. What's the needs of the community? The stories I just shared would be an example of that people are like, really? United Way does that? And there are needs for this? And so you sprinkle fun, you sprinkle, shooting basketball hoops and, in an indoor hoop, or contests to get free vacation days, or whatever it is. But the point is to educate. And so you take the passion of how good the United Way is doing, and you teach them about it, but have some fun while doing it. And the associates win, United Way wins, community wins. And so that's how we view it.
That's wonderful. Do you have something to add?
Sure. So, we know that purpose is important to our associates, and more than ever, as the younger generation keeps entering the workforce, it's more and more increasingly important for our associates. And so we try to find ways to connect them with the purpose of our company, but we also look to our associates to tell us what's important to them and how we can support their passions. A really interesting program that we have at Kohler is Innovation for Good, and that's where we invite associates to brainstorm solutions to some of the larger global problems that are out there. So for instance, last year was all around clean water and sanitation. And so groups of associates, whether you're an engineer or not, teams from any department could come together, propose business solutions. They presented them to leadership, and then teams were selected and given funding and time to work on those ideas. So that's just an example of a way that we try to harness the expertise and passion of our associates to connect with kind of the bigger purpose of our company.
That is awesome. Awesome.
I'd just build a little bit on what Matt said regarding kind of the education side. And that goes to our employees, the Sargento family, understanding kind of some of our core business philosophies that we hold, that my grandfather started. So I understood the importance of community because that's how I was raised. That's how I was brought up. And, my grandfather, when he started, he immediately needed the community in order to do what he wanted to do. So it was his way of immediately trying to start to give back as fast as he could. Just real quick, he had to ask the city of Plymouth to rent space in the basement of the Plymouth post office, to be packaging cheese in back in his early days. So if that is not kind of the community kind of coming together to kind of help a guy out, I don't know what is. But the community to this day remains a very key stakeholder, and so we do everything that we can to help inform and let our employees know the importance of what community is to our organization, but also to their livelihood. That's where they're living. That's where they're raising a family. That's where they're finding their balance in life. And without that strong community, you don't have that. It makes it hard to recruit people as a business. It makes it difficult to raise a family in the way that people want to raise their family. So giving back is just a piece of it, financially giving back. But providing people that opportunity to engage in a number of different nonprofit organizations in this area, I think is critically important because they become more entrenched in the community itself. So offering the opportunity for Day of Caring, offering the flexibility for people to use kind of their kind of free hours to coach basketball or to volunteer at the Salvation Army or to be a big, for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Those are all things that, I think are important because it allows people to kind of find where their passion is. It helps people find that balance in life so that they're not just sitting at their desk all the time. And they, to what was also said, it also allows them to find, their sense of purpose at an individual level, but then also support, the purpose of the organization, what the organization expects of them.
That is wonderful. Well, and I know many of the faces in this room, I know we are friends from the nonprofit space and the boards and the fundraising committees that we all form. Many of your associates and colleagues, thank you for that freedom of time that your organizations give to allow them to serve within these nonprofits. It's really, very, very powerful to have that workforce. So, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Janine, I'd like to pass the mic to you and chat a little bit about Kohler and the work that you all do with United Way. I just want to give huge praise. Kohler was one of the very first companies to step forward this fund that Matt was talking about that started on March 16th. Kohler is one of the very first ones to step forward and give very generously to that. And Kohler is a massive organization. What are some of the things that are part of the fabric of Kohler that makes you so agile to be able to respond to that need so quickly?
Great. Thanks, Johanna. Well, when it came to responding to COVID-19, I think there were a couple of factors at play. And the first, I think, would say established partnerships. So Kohler has a long, long history with the United Way of Sheboygan County. Over the last 15 years, it's been over $6 million from Kohler Associates and the company. So there's that trust, there's that relationship there. If you have to build a relationship on day one of a crisis, it's a stressful experience for the organization, and it just does not go well. So having this established partnership and relationship in place allowed us to hit the ground running in creating solutions and to providing additional support. I would also say we have leadership support. So the very small team that I sit on reports up to Laura Kohler and then ultimately David Kohler. And the message from day one is that healthy communities matter, and we're empowered to make those choices and to move quickly when crisis strikes. So we had their support from day one in order to make those additional investments. And then I would also say our associates are so passionate. We were all personally experiencing COVID-19 and what it meant for our families, but associates were reaching out to our department asking how they could help. What could they do to support both their fellow associates but the community at large? And so having the COVID-19 Relief Fund as an avenue that we could support and to direct associates was really poignant for us, and we raised over $20,000 from our associates towards that fund. So,
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about Harvest for the Hungry? I know this has been a tradition for many, many years, but I also like to hear about how you guys got really creative during 2020 as well to still make that tradition happen.
Yes. So the Harvest for Hungry, if you haven't participated in the past, is a community meal that's served by volunteers and is ultimately a fundraiser for the United Way of Sheboygan County. I believe it started back in around 2012, so a little over 10 years ago, and there were a couple of different factors at play at the time. One, different nonprofit organizations were approaching restaurants within Destination Kohler looking for either donations or to set up opportunities to donate a portion of proceeds to different causes, and it just became really overwhelming for that business to field all those requests and decide what to do. The other thing that was happening at that same time is we were looking for a way to engage our hospitality associates with the United Way. So it's an hourly workforce. Some are full-time, some part-time, so they haven't been as engaged as other members in the past. And so this provided a really unique opportunity. Leadership decided they wanted one signature event for hospitality that allowed associates to volunteer and to give back. Kind of coalesced around the infrastructure already being in place around food and wine, which happens in October. And so it all kind of came together that was the opportunity for associates to prepare and serve a meal and raise money for the United Way. So I think it is, since the beginning, it's raised over $120,000 and over 10,000 meals have been served. And in 2020, the pivot was to doing a drive-through event so that participants drove through the lower level of the American Club and meals were placed in people's trunks, and over 700 meals were served last year that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible.
It is just a testament to our hospitality associates who, in addition to that event, also prepared and served meals for fellow hospitality associates as well. It was just really amazing how they came together.
Yeah. Wow, that is so cool. And just speaks to the creativity that was mandatory for 2020. Especially, I see shaking heads of my fellow nonprofit people in the room of, how we had to make that happen. St. Nick's also hosted our traditional gala as a drive-through, and we had a massive semi-truck from Sargento to keep all the food cold, and Kohler made delicious raspberry Linzer cookies for us to put in the boxes, and LTC, it was a whole collaboration. And what we find with that kind of forced creativity is that's where some really cool innovation happens. And I feel like we're still in that creative innovation space, and I hope that continues because it challenges itself to do better. So that's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, what I'd like to do is we'll jump into a little bit of a Q&A time, and I'll give you all some time to organize your thoughts and your questions. We have a mic that will be passed around, so if you have a question, you can just raise your hand and we will come to you. If you're online, please drop your question into the chat box, and our team is monitoring that box and we'll ask that question for you. So I'll give you all a second to put those thoughts together, and I'll just ask one more question, which we've touched on this in a variety of ways, but the question is just why United Way for you personally, and for your organization. Why does United Way get such a designated spot in your philanthropy? So can we start with you, Louie?
Sure. I'm going to steal Matt's 2 words, community thinkers. I have always told individuals who are looking to provide an opportunity to give to an organization that the United Way is by far the best one to do that, because they have their finger on the needs of the community. And I think it's so very important to have an organization that is just at the central core of understanding kind of the needs, because it's like the hub, and then everything kind of starts to roll right around it. And that's why I like the United Way. That's why my wife likes the United Way. That's why it is the only campaign where we do every year where we match dollar for dollar in employees' contributions to the United Way, and it's been successful. But it only happens because of what the United Way does. I think of Matt gave 2 great examples of some great programs that came through the United Way. One of my favorite is the PATH program. Performing access to healing. Putting counselors in each and every school here in Sheboygan County, all districts, to have an opportunity for a child to be able to get the help that they need, to provide that access for them is, I think, so critical, especially in today's world of just the increasing number of mental health challenges that people are facing. That program doesn't go unless the United Way had a pulse and was listening to what was going on in the county. What would have happened if it didn't? You would have had disparate kind of organizations trying to do a good job but not do it very well. Bring it together, bring the resources together, organize it, and then implement it throughout the community, and that's what makes United Way great.
Thank you. Matt, what about you?
Community thinkers is important. I like the fact that they're agnostic. They choose the community. They understand the needs. They then understand what the agencies and the programs are out there. They then measure and manage those programs from afar, making sure that the impact that they're having is real, that they bring them to collaborate with other agencies together. So they're efficient because money isn't being spent on solving the same problem in 4 places. It's in one place and they're working together to solve it. So it's efficiency, it's a collaboration, it's agnosticness, and it's thinking. that makes United Way very effective.
Wonderful. Thank you. Janine?
Well, I echo so much of what Louie and Matt had to say. You know, at Kohler, our team says, like, if we didn't have a United Way, we would want a United Way, because both personally and professionally, the amount of knowledge and coordination and effort that goes into understanding the community and coordinating the efforts of the various nonprofits is beyond the reach of me and my personal time, and then also our small team professionally. So there's absolute trust there that they'll be good stewards of the money, that they'll measure the impact and make sure that the money's being used efficiently. So that's why United Way.
Yeah, that is excellent.
I tend to be analytical. People say I'm a little bit a nerd, but just think about the following: 22,000 therapy sessions were given to kids last year at school, having access to that. 74,000 meals being provided to the elderly and homebound last year. 26,000 nights of shelter was provided last year. That's 75 people a day. Think about it, do the math. But you know it's not even. You know the colder months, it's much. So think about hundreds each night. 5,000 families each month are provided emergency food. You know, that's you know, it's food, it's health, it's mental health, it's financial stability, it's education. That's what these guys do, and you know, the staff are in touch and are very good thinkers about and sensors as to what the community needs.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And Matt, thanks for bringing those numbers, because it's still hard to wrap our arms around that, but it puts some faces to some of the needs that we know exist. And like I said, I am guilty of, I go same roads, same schedule. I'm a very routine person, and sometimes you just miss out on, wow, that there are that many people in our community who are impacted by this specific need, and to know that there's an army that's going after that and meeting those needs is very encouraging. So yeah, thank you for those answers.
I got one more thing.
Yes, please.
You know, we talk a lot about United Way, but the real foot soldiers are the agencies, right? And they're you know, very focused and on their problem, which is great. But they're the foot soldiers that make it all happen, and the United Way kind of helps bring it together. So we can't understate the importance of what those agencies, you know, 23 agencies, 39 programs were funded through United Way. So thanks off to the agencies and all the work they do.
Yeah, which that's one of my very favorite things about how the Day of Caring is formed, is you're getting into the doors of these agencies that we get to support. And this year I got to go out to Camp Evelyn. I wasn't a Girl Scout and never got to go to camp there, didn't really know the work that they did. And it was just so fun. I'm seeing head shaking from those who were pulling out entire trees with me and doing, it was supposed to be light gardening, and it was some pretty heavy yard work, which was good. We needed it. Obviously, there was some stress that needed to be reduced. So it was really very cool, but we're getting into the doors of organizations that otherwise I might not have come across their purpose. So any other thoughts before we jump into Q&A? Okay, let's dive in. Does anyone have some specific questions? It can be for the entire panel, for someone specifically.
If you do, I've got a mic. Hi. First, I'd like to say thank you to you and your organizations for all the amazing things you've done, and the great definition of United Way and all the amazing things United Way has done. My question is, I see that you touched on like food and those basic needs and child advocacy and clean water, which is all like so fantastic. And as we know, we can keep going. So one thing that I'm aware of is safe and affordable housing, and the lack of that housing. So how would you, or do you have any suggestions or ideas, or are your organizations open to the idea of kind of pushing forward on making that more accessible for Sheboygan County?
That's a great question.
I can take that one. The answer to your question is yes, there's a lot of resources going against right now. How can we bring more affordable housing to the county? It's complicated. It's not as easy as just, putting a shovel in the ground. But there's a recognized need, and actually through Adam Payne's office at the county level, he has made kind of like an affordable housing task force that is currently looking at avenues to get it going. Unfortunately, that's not a flip of a light switch and ta-da, now you have 300 homes. But it is good to see the energy and the focus on that area, and there's no doubt in my mind that this community is going to figure it out.
Yeah, actually, Louie, the task force that you're referring to, that a huge shout out to the county board and the way that they are developing that. I don't want to step out of line, but I believe that we're one of the only counties who, and actually Elaine, I see here in the room, can confirm, one of the only counties that's choosing to move these ARPA dollars through a task force committee type function versus just the decision being made and the check being signed, which really shows the collaboration and yeah, the right minds in the room to make that happen. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that. More questions?
Can you just say your name and where you're from too? It just would be helpful.
Yes, hi, my name is Amanda Ecker from Johnsonville. And one of the questions I have for you guys is we have a large population of members who work in our plant facilities, and we would like to allow them opportunities to volunteer during work time, but have not found a great way to do that. So do you guys have any recommendations for Johnsonville? And I'm sure maybe there are other companies that have the same challenge as well.
From a volunteer perspective.
Well, I'm going to get the terminology wrong, I'm sure, but we, for our individuals who work in manufacturing, their ability to use kind of hours. So they don't have to take a full day off, they can take an hour off, where that allows them to maybe break away and, like I had mentioned before, coach a soccer practice or a basketball team, or to get out a little bit early to do it. So they get, I'm not even going to tell you how many hours because I don't know, but that was something that we added to allow people the opportunity to kind of do something without having to take an entire day of vacation or paid time off.
Our view is more on the education side. We need to help our associates understand the needs of the community, as we talked about earlier. And once you understand it, the work occurs. You're touched, the individual is touched in one way or another, within United Way or outside United Way, doesn't matter. And they go and take action to help the community. So it's awareness that we are working on, because things aren't happening because they're unaware. If you make them aware, then things do happen and things change. So that's kind of our take.
Wonderful. Great question. More questions? Do we have any questions coming in from online? No? Feel free to type those into the chat box to... More questions?
Hello, I am Roberta Fulicki-Pineski, and I'm an alderperson in District 2 for the city of Sheboygan.
Yes.
And from the perspective of the agencies, I'm interested in days of caring when you furlough X number of employees to do X, Y, Z, or ABC. Have you given thoughts to, I know for the organization it is also for your businesses, it's also a team building exercise, but have you given thoughts to distributing 2 volunteers at a time consistently rather than 14 of them on one day?
That's a great question. I know that leans into maybe a little bit more of the logistics of Day of Caring, which I unfortunately can't speak very much to because I'm not United Way staff. But I know the Day of Caring is kind of it's the kickoff to the campaign.
Kickoff.
So it's a big day of celebration and launching that. But I wouldn't say that's, I know many organizations, I don't know if any of you have experience with the consistency, but I know many organizations have volunteers, whether they're serving on boards, every single month, or, fundraising councils or task forces within different organizations. I know there's a lot of consistency. I know from all of these organizations and many others in the community that serve on that basis. Do you all have a thought on?
Yeah, my thought is that seems to fit more under the volunteer center of the United Way, where agencies can post at no cost of what their needs are and tie people that want to volunteer to do various things. And those things can be on a weekly basis, a daily basis, a monthly basis, however, as an individual or as group. So I think that's probably where that type of agency need, where I would go if I were to coach a agency where to go, I would tell them, reach out to the volunteer center and they'll get the resources that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a good add. And then, then I think it just happens on its own within an organization. We have a group that, before COVID was every Wednesday night was serving at Salvation Army. Every month, a group of different employees go down to Milwaukee to St. Ben's community meal program, where we kind of rotate it through departments. So I do agree with Matt. It's got to be orchestrated from the organizations, and the volunteer center is a great way to kind of help get people in the right area. And then, as we've said numerous times, then the volunteer work, I think, just kind of happens. So you might get an HR department that has a passion for this group, and you know what, they're going to commit to once a month, where a few of them might go help out. Big Brothers Big Sisters, that's a very consistent volunteer program, where people are signing up to be a big, and once a month they're going into the schools and they're meeting with their big, and oftentimes it's more than that because they love it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. More questions?
I have one that came in virtually as well.
Perfect.
This is from Patrick Boyle with the Food Bank.
Oh, hey, Patrick.
He is asking, do the companies that give so generously ever try and convince nonprofits to partner and collaborate with other nonprofits if they think it would make sense, or is that something they try and stay away from?
So suggesting collaboration for nonprofits that they support?
Correct.
Great question. A tricky question.
I guess I'll answer it, and I've actually talked to Patrick numerous times about it. I think you have to start kind of almost not requiring, but highly encouraging the collaboration. Because if we don't at least ask the question and try and bring people to the table, we just will not be as efficient with our resources, both our human resources of finding volunteers, but then also the financial ones as well. So Patrick knows, because I ask him that all the time. I asked him, before he wants to start a program, like, well, have you talked to this organization and vice versa? We've made a point specifically on the food-related side. All of our food donations go to the Sheboygan County Food Bank. And then in individual pantries or a backpack program, or if they come to us and ask for food, we send them right to Patrick's door and say, that's where it's all going. That's an example of trying to bring some some efficiency and then some just better execution of the needs, I think is a good example of that.
I think United Way actually plays into this space.
Yeah.
They drive collaboration. In fact, they give one of their criterion in their fund distribution is their effectiveness to collaborate with others. And don't start a program that this guy already has. No, work with them. And so from a business perspective, I don't think we have the visibility of understanding all the programs in the community. And so we rely on the community experts, in this case, United Way, to then drive the collaboration. Gina, does that feel right? Yeah.
And we ask questions though as business leaders.
Of course,
right? That's what
you want efficiency.
You ask the question to help, get people out of just kind of their one mindset and say, oh yeah, look at here.
Right.
And then to your earlier point, it's all about educating. So it's not only educating the community, it's educating each of the different agencies of what each other does.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that is so good. The duplication of services sends shivers down all of our spines. That, people doing the same thing, and we can see those connections of doing better together. And I appreciate that perspective. We are rolling into the last couple minutes, and so I'm gonna have one more question from the audience, and then a couple things to wrap us up. John.
Hi, I'm John Rogers. I'm the roundtable facilitator for Sheboygan County Chamber of Commerce, and I've done close to 500 of those roundtables, starting at the end of 2007. And I could tell you all kinds of collaborations that have happened as a result of the various roundtables. And one of the things that I like to talk about is we live in a land of silos. But we can't live in those silos. We have to go out and talk to people and find out. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And the more we talk to each other, the more often we're going to find out about different programs and how we can work together. If you don't know about the Chamber Roundtables, let me know, please.
Well, the other thing I would add about silos is I feel like each organization also isn't working in a silo. So for instance, like we know that housing is a cornerstone, but people who have struggle finding housing may also struggle finding healthcare and may also be food insecure. So being able to provide a more holistic approach is more important for solving some of these bigger issues.
It's so true. Which this goes back to the task force that Louie was mentioning happening at the county board level. I believe you can find that information on the county board website and look through the different priorities and how those dollars, the different camps that those dollars will be able to move into. And that is a very unique. The people that are serving on those task forces, they're the right people in the right seat on the bus. So it's exciting to see. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, in lieu of wrap up, I just have one simple question to ask you guys, just about you personally. If you have a favorite way that you personally have volunteered in the past, a consistent way you love to volunteer, just a favorite memory of a way that you've gotten in on some of the great work. I know I mentioned my time at Camp Evelyn during Day of Caring. I had a sore back for a day or two, but it was an absolute blast. Do you guys have any volunteer favorites, highlights?
I can go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I first moved to Sheboygan, I was a volunteer with Meals on Wheels. And so I remember, this is back when it was at Watson's Vending, and I remember pulling into that parking lot to pick up my meal for the first time and just amazed at all of the people that were there to help serve, and that it happened every day, that all of these volunteers would come to pick up meals, to deliver them throughout Sheboygan County. It floored me when I went the very first time. And as my children were growing older, I would bring them with me to serve and deliver Meals on Wheels. And that was just a really amazing experience too, and got me out into the community and seeing parts of Sheboygan County that I would have otherwise not seen. So for me, being a part of Meals on Wheels was really impactful for me and for my family.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
For me, I volunteer, we were talking about this earlier, I volunteer at St. Nicholas Hospital as a Eucharistic minister. And so each week, every Monday, I go to all the patients that wish to have communion and give them communion. And it's an amazing ministry. You see people oftentimes at their worst, and they want someone to listen to. They're lonely, and they're in need, and they're scared, and you're there, and you're present with them. So and there's countless stories, but that's probably the one I cherish the most.
Yeah.
I've been like kind of scratching my head here. There's I guess a number of different moments, but I think the one that it could be serving on a board that I am passionate about and seeing the great work that they can do. I go back to the serving a meal to somebody who maybe is going to go without it. To me is just because it's so basic. It's just at such a fundamental level, and handing the individual a tray or scooping some mashed potatoes on a plate for them has just been, oftentimes it's just so eye-opening because you're seeing it kind of right there. And my children have had the opportunity to kind of do that as well, and I just I think that's probably the most memorable. But then that kind of spins into the work that I've done in working with Patrick at the Sheboygan County Food Bank to see, where that organization has come has been really kind of neat. It's been neat to see.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for your time, for your investment in today, and the work that you do day in and day out to serve Sheboygan County and your fellow colleagues, and just very, very grateful for the leadership role that you play. So thank you for this time. Thank you to all of you who are able to join us, and for those online, this has been an absolute joy. I know we have Mayor Sorensen who wanted to say hello and a little something. Mayor Sorensen, thank you for letting us into your living room today. We appreciate this space and the opportunity to be together.
Bedroom, bathroom, a little bit of everything. I just wanted to pop over and just say hello to everybody and thank you so much and welcome you to City Hall. It's always great to see some familiar and friendly faces here too. I think this is just a true reflection of what we want our relatively new City Hall to be more of a community center, bring folks from the community in here just to see what our community is all about. I think the great work that the United Way does and every single work that you all do makes an impact on our community. So I just want to say thank you so much. If you ever have any future meetings or get-togethers or panels or anything that you'd like, please reach out. We'd be happy to host you here at City Hall. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. With that, we are going to wrap up and would like to give you back 1 minute of your Tuesday. So thank you, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Nice job. Thank you, John.
No, it was.
I'm not going to run for office anytime soon.
No.